All right, so first thing is, just a quick caveat, I'm not a doctor. Nothing I'm about to say is medical advice. People aren't stupid, you're not stupid, so just take what resonates with you, leave the rest, but don't take this as, medical instruction. This video has been inspired by the book called The Sober Truth by a guy called Dr. Lance Dodds, and also by my own lived experience. And for those of you who are also bookworms like me, I've leave the link to the book in the description so you can have a read it to yourself. Okay, so I myself have been to rehab multiple times, NA, AA, meetings for years and years, and here's the blunt truth. Okay, if anything, they made things 10 times worse for me. So I got out of rehab with a lot of full soap, a lot of white knuckling as they call it, thinking, this time will be different. And literally within a matter of weeks, not months, I'd relapse. And instead of questioning the program, the finger got pointed back at me. I got told that I'd got an incurable disease of addiction that I will have for the rest of my life. Narcotics Anonymous and AA, in my opinion, are even worse because you've got to go back every single time you go and reaffirm to the group that, hello, my name is Rob and I'm an addict. That's the first thing that you say. Then you drill it into your identity until you can't really see yourself as anything else. But real change doesn't come from stamping yourself with a permanent label, I am an addict. Real change is an identity shift, moving past the old story of being broken and starting to live as somebody completely new and completely different. It's like being freezing cold and sitting in a circle talking about how freezing cold you all are over and over again every day without building a fire and getting nice and warm. So that's why this book that I was talking about, The Sober Truth, hit me so hard, because it cuts through the bullshit and proved scientifically what I already knew to be true in my own gut and my own kind of intuition. The traditionally and socially accepted forms of recovery is what fails most people. So in this video, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show you the numbers, the data, and then I'll tell you about an alternative. Something that actually resets your nervous system, your brain, and what I believe to be the deep spiritual sickness at the heart of addiction. So AA and NA, Narcotics Anonymous, it's been around since the 1930s. And one of their mantras is, rarely have we seen a person fail. Well, that's total bullshit straight away, because the real numbers, and I mean the real numbers, the success rate of NA and AA is between 5% and 10% best. And that's about the same as people who quit on their own without AA. And as they always say, the old adage is, history is always written by the winners. And here's the trap. When you relapse, AA doesn't question the program, it blames you. You didn't surrender hard enough. You didn't pray hard enough. You didn't work the steps hard enough. You didn't go to enough meetings. And that's not therapy, that's not medicine, that's gaslighting. And one thing that really stuck with me, they tell you that if you don't understand the concept of God and surrender to a higher power, use the acronym Group of Drunks. Now, I don't know about you, but handing my physical, spiritual and mental well-being over to a group of drunks makes absolutely no sense to me. And on top of that, what comes with gaslighting? Guilt. Now, guilt is one of the most toxic emotions that we can carry in our body, and it doesn't just crush you mentally. It's like a form of abuse. It eats you alive physically because it spikes the stress hormone cortisol in your body, wrecks your immune system, causes inflammation, and breaks you down from the inside out. So long-term guilt and shame, and it's a very guilt and shame based doctrine, can cause a lot of problems, digestive problems, problems with the body, cancer even. So when AA tells you that relapse is your fault, it's just cruel, and potentially it makes people even sicker. Now, AA didn't survive because it works, because it doesn't. It's because it sold hope, or what I like to call hopium, when people were desperate. And it started with a religious conversation in the 1930s by a guy called Bill W. And then it spread because the Rockefellers backed it with a load of money, and at the time they controlled the media. So they glorified it, and then, you know, they got the stamp of approval put on it. And also built into it from day one is recruitment, because the 12th step literally tells you to go out and preach the word and convert others to the same kind of principles. So it's essentially like a fucking pyramid scheme. So when you've been told for nearly a century that AA is the only way, and you don't question it, because there's nothing else. And that's how a program with around 5% success rate became the gold standard. So now let's talk about rehab. So rehabs are just AA and NA abstinence-based principles dressed up in a fancy frock with a luxury price tag. So some of them will charge you 30, 40, even 100 grand a month to do exactly the same thing that you could get in a church basement for free. Yeah, they'll give you yoga classes, horse therapy, massages, a private chef maybe. But if you strip all that away, at the core of it are still the 12 steps: surrender, pray, give your life over to a higher power other than yourself. And some of the most famous rehabs in the world admit that half of their clients relapse within a year. Most rehabs don't even track the outcomes, because if they did, they wouldn't make any money. What it basically is a $1 billion industry that's just a massive glorified revolving door, because people relapse, they come back, families bankrupt themselves trying to, save their loved ones, and then the blame is pushed back on the addict, not the framework, and that's exploitation. And addiction, it's not a disease that you catch, it's a psychological compulsion, stroke spiritual sickness. And it's a coping mechanism that people use to cope with unbearable feelings of trauma and a litany of other things. And it doesn't happen because people are weak, it's because the underlying problem never gets touched or addressed. So when you finally dig deep and understand the reasons why you might be drinking, using drugs, the compulsion starts to lose its power, and that's when true change really begins. But here's the problem. Therapy takes a long, long time. A therapist that you are comfortable with is very difficult to find. And most haven't got the resilience to grind through it. Even readjusting your brain chemistry back to real life is hell. And this is where Ibogaine comes in. So if AA is, a fire and brimstone sermon, Ibogaine is literally a reset button. So here's what it does. It's a nervous system reset, because addiction hijacks your stress response. So you're constantly stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, and you're always chasing relief. So it slams the brakes on this system and resets it back to baseline. It also resets your brain chemistry. So years of substance abuse destroy your hormones, your dopamine, your serotonin levels, and you're left craving, depressed, extremely empty. And it also clears those pathways and restores balance. And people often wake up and say, the cravings are just gone, or that thing that I was obsessed with is just not there anymore. And it also resets spiritual sickness, because it's not just about the brain chemistry, it's about the disconnection from that thing that, you know, is life itself, you know, part of the whole. Then it takes you straight into that void, shows you the root cause of it, and reconnects you with the infinite, and gives you irrefutable proof that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And here's something most people don't know. Ibogaine's not just for addiction. Actual hard-backed data research shows that it promotes neurogenesis, which is the growth of new brain tissue. So that means that it's got a massive potential to heal the long-term damage caused by childhood trauma, traumatic brain injury. And I've seen this happen with my own eyes. It doesn't just stop cravings, it helps literally rebuild what's being broken. And that's why one Ibogaine treatment can do in 24 hours what 24 months of rehab cannot do. It rewires the body, resets the brain, heals the soul. And unlike AA, it doesn't keep you codependent on a lifetime of an identity. Hi, I'm Rob and I'm an addict. It gives you a chance to break that story and begin living as somebody new. Now, the sober truth is that most people recover successfully outside of this system, either on their own or with alternatives that actually address the root cause of the system. AA and rehab, 5% success rate on average. Ibogaine, first time users, 85%. Now, over and over again, it's been shown to interrupt addiction, reset the system, help the brain heal, and help give people a genuine shot of living free for once. So the choice is simple. Keep throwing yourself at an arcane, outdated system, or step into something that really does make sense. So don't let tradition chain you to a program that doesn't work. Don't let an industry profit off your pain. If you're ready to actually break free, stop repeating an old identity that isn't you anymore. Start asking yourself the hard questions. Step outside the acceptable framework and dogma, because your recovery deserves more than a 5% chance. And that, my friends, is the sober truth. So if any of this hits home, if you are sick of the same cycle, reach out to me, because I have been there. I really have. And I know how dark it gets. And I know there's another way forward, because I've seen it in my own life and I've seen it in the lives of many others. So if you want to talk about it in the strictest of confidence, from a very authentic and non-judgmental place, please, please, please reach out. I can share the stories of many other people that I've helped, and this just might be the start of your reset. So thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you in the next video.